Yep, and cue Pokemon theme song.
Dun, 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 I wanna be the very best that no one ever was. What's going on, guys? Critic and the Common Man back at you with another episode today. We listened to some of your feedback. We really appreciate it. We're going to change up our video model a little bit. So, as you can see from the thumbnail, we are just doing one video today. We're just reviewing one movie at a time. We hope you guys like this a little better, but keep sending us some feedback, and we'll keep adjusting. So, first video up today is a really fun one, actually. Detective Pikachu. This was your choice for this review, Chris. You had kind of told us about this. And honestly, I didn't have the highest hopes for this.
Yeah.
And was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I remember you saying, that you weren't sure what to think about it. So,
did you see this one in the theaters?
I didn't. I saw this a few months ago for the first time, in home theater setting. But I went into it the same way. I didn't know what to expect. I was not expecting anything good. Because in my mind, there's no way that anyone could ever make a Pokemon movie that was, mostly CGI and have it look good, because, there's, you have the anime. How are you ever going to translate that into a real world setting? But somehow they got away with it for this one. So
they did. This movie, I think, actually did a lot of things right. Things that could have made kind of make or break things. I think they actually got a lot of them right, and I was very happy to watch that. One of which being the CGI, actually. Obviously, one of the big things that turns me off to a lot of movies nowadays is that it's sort of CGI overload. It's kind of just in your face. You can't get away from it. This one, we knew it was going to be like that from the trailer. There was really no avoiding that. But it was actually very good. And for the most part, most of the setting stuff seemed like it was real and was not overly CGI. It was just, you're watching Pokemon put into an otherwise totally real set. Which I was a little worried about how they were going to be able to pull that off, but it was pretty convincing.
Yeah. There was a few Pokemon here and there that I thought were a little weird looking, but for the most part, I was actually very happy with how it looked.
So one thing with the CGI films that you'll notice, especially when one of the main characters is computer generated, when they're looking at each other, like when they're talking to each other, it seems off. Like the eyes don't track correctly. Like when the main character is talking to a CGI person, it's almost like they're looking at the wrong area. Like you start to notice that in these CGI films. And I actually thought that Detective Pikachu, they kind of fixed that. Like it seemed like the interaction between specifically Pikachu and the main character were pretty genuine.
So
they seemed pretty real.
Ryan Reynolds did motion capture as Pikachu.
Oh, he did. So okay, that makes a lot of sense, because it seemed like, I don't know, it just seemed like they were on, and Justice Smith, who played Tim in this movie, did a really good job. But I'd imagine when they're filming this movie, you're basically being told, okay, this is what's going on. Just kind of imagine that you have like a Pokemon here or a Pokemon there, and then act out your scene. I don't know if like a Ryan Reynolds would be there in studio reading out their lines or what. I have no idea.
But they might have him reading the lines off camera. But they probably set up some sort of cardboard cutout of Pikachu and had like somebody in a green screen suit moving it around as if Pikachu was there. That way there was a line of sight there.
Something to track visually.
And that's something that they've just developed as CGI got better.
That makes sense. So I was also worried with this movie that when you recommended it, I'm thinking, dude, this is going to be like a kid's movie. And I think they actually did a really good job with targeting the right audience with the tone of this film. Like, I didn't feel like I was watching a little kid's movie, even though, for the most part, Pokemon, at least the TV shows, are aimed at kind of a younger audience. Mm-hmm. But I think they kind of understood that, hey, there's a little bit older audience that's been playing Pokemon and been into Pokemon for a long time. They're not 10, 15-year-old kids anymore. These are millennials that kind of grew up with Pokemon. They would be receptive to a movie like this, but we can't make it. Yeah, me too. Exactly. They can't make it a kid's movie, and they didn't. I thought it was pretty, it had some dark tones to it. It's dealing with a kid who lost his father, and then it's kind of the detective aspect of it seemed a little more adult, but I liked it. I actually thought it was pretty good.
So on a side note, you mentioned the nostalgia of Pokemon there. I don't know about you, but I remember the first episode I ever watched. I remember watching the one where Ash goes to the lighthouse and he sees that giant dragon. I mean, it was the outline of a Dragonite, but it was like 100 times bigger than it should have been. So I don't know what that was, but I remember watching that episode. And Pokemon had just come out, and they had like cut out things on like cereal boxes that you could like collect, and I remember like getting into that craze and getting all the Pokemon cards, and it never stopped for me. Like pretty much, like the card collecting stopped, but I continue to this day, dude. If I had a Nintendo Switch, I'd be playing Pokemon right now.
Oh man,
I wouldn't be paying attention to anything you're saying right now.
We wouldn't even be doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Chris would just be completely enveloped in Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yep.
Dude, it's actually funny that you say that, because it's crazy that Pokemon is still so relevant.
Yeah.
Like, this has been around for so long, and now they're even making movies. And, you know, you'd think the movies that they'd be making now would not be that great. Mm-hmm. But they're still making good content. And I think that's sort of the key of it all. Like, the video games are still pretty good. And the movies, even though I will say, if it weren't for this podcast, I don't know. If it weren't for the podcast, I don't know if I would have actually seen Detective Pikachu, because I fell into the trap of thinking this is a movie that's for a younger audience. I kind of got that vibe from the trailers that I saw for it. I was wrong. This movie was actually very good, and it just goes to show you that Pokemon brand is still very relevant.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're still coming out with, Sword and Shield are coming out on the Switch. Those games are awesome. They're coming out with movies now, which, to my delight, were actually really good. So Pokemon, now is still just as relevant as ever, which I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to see a sequel to this movie. I didn't see anything out there suggesting that there'd be a sequel, but if we get more Pokemon movies like this, I would be 100% receptive to this, because I actually thought this film was very good and very interesting.
I think they might be setting up a world in order to create other branches of this same world, but I doubt that there's going to be another like Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu thing.
Yeah, maybe not. And I would be okay with that if they kind of took it a little bit different direction, because I will say one of the things about this film that I thought was, I don't know if it was bad, but I wasn't necessarily my first choice, was the fact that it was kind of this detective style. It almost made it feel like sort of an off-brand Pokemon thing, where I kind of would have liked something that was more focused on like a trainer who's battling and like maybe taking on gym leaders. Like, take the original story of one of the Pokemon, like one of the games, and kind of create a movie out of that.
Yeah.
Because I did think this film lacked a little bit in the sense of like, I wished it had a little more Pokemon battles.
I was a little bit more intense. Thing in my notes. One of the coolest scenes for me, at least, was when Tim goes into that battle arena thing, and I wanted so badly for him to like we as viewers, I know that everybody who's a huge Pokemon fan, anybody who's like an actual fan, all we wanted to see was him reach into his pocket, pull out the tiny Pokeball, and then watch it like get bigger, and then have him actually battle and say the things. And like, I understand that they were trying to go a different direction, and that they wanted to create a storyline that wasn't about a trainer. And I think ultimately that's because the overarching theme of the entire film is loneliness. It's this this character, this Tim, who doesn't want a Pokemon trainer because he wants to be alone. That's his thing. He wants to be a loner because everybody else has abandoned him. And so I get that. I get that they wanted to kind of play off of that vibe. But you're right. It does feel a little strange, although they pull us into it pretty quickly. And I think that's because of Ryan Reynolds. I think Ryan Reynolds...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. He can bridge the gap between like taking something that should be maybe like a little bit more like younger content and just bring humor into it so that everybody can enjoy it. He's got a phenomenal talent of doing that, his personality. I was okay with the fact that this was a detective movie. It is what it is. That was the film we watched. I really liked it. All I'm saying is, for how good this was, I'm now completely receptive to the idea of them making like a newer Pokemon movie that's actually more based on like trainers and battling and fighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I think I would like that a little more, just because that's like traditional Pokemon. This one felt like, like it was like what, Pokemon Yellow, the one where like Pikachu follows you around basically. Like, it felt like kind of the more unique version of it, and I'm like, okay, it was good. I liked this movie, but now let's take this same art style, let's take this same CGI and the same budget, and let's make an actual Pokemon movie where we're following a trainer who, it doesn't have to even be one we know. It doesn't have to be Ash. You know what I mean? Let's take a trainer and like give him some cool Pokemon to start out with, and then let's watch him kind of fight, and then you can make some sequels off of that.
So since you mentioned Ash, they 100% tied the original series and all the movies and stuff to this. Like, they mentioned the Kanto region. They mentioned that Mewtwo had been caught before. They didn't say that it was Ash, that they, whatever, but they're basically saying that everything that happened in the series happened, and that this is just what happened in our time. And so it's interesting that they tied not only Mewtwo but Ryme City to the entire original series, because one thing, I think it's genius because it 100% plays off of our nostalgia, and it's connecting us to our childhood in a literal sense. Like, everything that we saw and that we experienced as kids growing up with Pokemon, they're not pushing that aside. They're not saying this is something else. They're saying this happened.
No, they're not. And
we want to continue growing with you now as adults. And so they give us this. Like, what did you think about that? Do you think that...
I like it. So this is basically now, like, this is Pokemon canon. Like, this is all part of, like, the canon story that they're creating. And like I said, it feels like they're still more relevant than ever. So I'm totally fine with it. But you're right. And what I noticed while I was watching this movie is all of the little, I don't even know if you'd call them Easter eggs, because it's not like they were even really trying to hide it, but all of the little almost like things they throw in there, like the posters on the wall of like Rayquaza, and the like, the pictures of like Lugia, and like all the Pokemon that we know and kind of love. They didn't, like you said, they didn't shy away from putting those in there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very well done. They talked about the Kanto region. They kind of give you some pre-story where they tell you about how, well, in some areas of the world, Pokemon are used to battle, but here in Ryme City, like we work, hand in hand with Pokemon, and we go, we coincide with them and we live with them. They kind of set up their own unique story for this, and it worked. I really liked it, but I think this is cool how this is now like Pokemon's canon story. This is what's going on in that universe.
Yeah.
And you're seeing this a lot. You're seeing this with like Star Wars and these other big franchises, Pokemon, Star Wars, whatever, that, they're taking a story that's been around for a really long time, and they're continuing to make relevant content by kind of creating new canon type stuff. Or at least like giving you stories that tie into the canon really well, like tie into the like original story really well. But yeah, I liked it. I liked the nods to what else was going on. They didn't try to make it like this was its own thing separate of the games and separate of all the information. Like the cartoon movies that we've seen before, or the anime, if you will, where, Mewtwo, I don't remember the name of that movie, the one with Mewtwo and Mew.
The first movie.
Yeah, the original movie. I don't remember like the title.
No, that's what it's called. I don't know if it was Pokemon, the first movie.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I gotcha. Yeah, they didn't shy away from that. I love it. I say keep building on it. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's just a really well fleshed out world that they started building here, and it's because they're building on top of a world that we already know. And I think they did a really good job of painting the picture of this city that is just, I almost said infested. That's terrible. That is it's just living.
But you're not too far off. Right, you're not too far off, because even like what were they, the Apoms? When like you're seeing them in there,
I don't know their names.
Whatever it is, yeah, you're kind of seeing.
I'm the
like,
original 151 kind of guy. Okay.
So hold on, let's actually talk about that too for a second. So I agree with what you said. It's like the city almost feels not overrun with Pokemon, but they're just everywhere. Like it almost seems like it would become a problem. But let's talk about like the idea of like the original Pokemon and like how far it's gone. I thought they did a good job. I was a little worried going into this that I was going to see a bunch of Pokemon that I just didn't even understand.
Yeah,
or
like new ones that you didn't know their name or anything.
Yeah, and I did. I did see some that I didn't know what they were. Like I saw some that I'm like, okay, I don't remember like these Pokemon, like the Snubbull and like the giant pandas and stuff. Like those weren't really in the games that I played. Like I played like Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and then like the original, you know what I mean? Like Gold, Red, Blue, all that. Like that's kind of my experience with Pokemon. And I haven't really been like into it like that in a long time. So I was worried going into this one that we were going to see a bunch of Pokemon that I just didn't even know, because they have some crazy ones.
Oh,
now.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how many Pokemon we're up to, but they have a lot. But I thought they did a good job of kind of, Yeah, hundreds. And they did a good job of making Pikachu the main character. Everybody knows Pikachu. It's not like the main character was like one of those Greninjas. Like, I kind of knew what they were, but again, like, that's from some of the newer games and stuff. I'm not like super well versed on those Pokemon.
So, for me, one of the things that got me into Pokemon was the fact that I didn't know most of them. That for me added to the wonder of it all. Like, I wanted to know how many more there are. Like, I think it'd be boring if we knew every single Pokemon, and I liked that we were seeing Pokemon that I couldn't name. There are new ones and there's old ones. So like they have the nostalgia, but they're also hinting at this larger world. And for all we know, there could be Pokemon in this world that they've set up that we have not met yet. And I think that's setting them up for potentially a long-term franchise, and I think that's very smart on their end, especially if the movies continue to be this good.
Yeah, and even at the beginning, like when he kind of tricks him and he's telling him he's going to go out to catch a Pokemon for his buddy, and then it ends up being a Cubone. Like I think they did a pretty good job of the main character Pokemon in this movie. They made them kind of Pokemon that everybody would know. Everybody knows Mewtwo. Everybody knows Pikachu. Everybody knows Cubone. Everybody knows Charizard. He was in the fighting ring. They weren't like, they threw the Greninjas at you like when they were in the lab, and like whatever the big turtle ones were, where they ended up being like massive Torterra. Yeah, they threw some of those in there, but they weren't so important to the story.
Yeah,
like it's like if you didn't exactly know these Pokemon because you hadn't played the games, that's okay. Like, you're not going to be lost in the story. You just kind of go with it. But you're right. No, you're totally right. I mean, that's the fun of the games, is running around and either finding all of a sudden a wild Pokemon appears and you didn't know what it was before, and now you can catch it, or a gym leader has a Pokemon you'd never seen before.
Yeah.
Like, not knowing all of them, like you said, is important.
It's part of
the
the fun.
They did set up in this movie. It is part of the fun. It's the game.
Yeah.
That's the game. To find them all, to catch them all, to be the very best that no one ever was.
Right.
Dun dun dun.
But
dun dun dun.
Everybody knows that.
So what'll be interesting now is if they move forward with these movies, if they introduce new Pokemon in the movie that weren't in the games. So they start adding Pokemon into these movies that they then will use in the games instead of vice versa.
Yeah. That actually would be crazy. You're creating a whole different thread. Yeah, I mean, you absolutely can. But let's talk about the film overall then.
Okay.
Because like obviously you and I could, talk forever about Pokemon and the nerdiness of it. Because like absolutely, like I don't care if this movie got like a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. I would have seen it because I would have to know, as like the child in me would have to know how good this was, just to see the Pokemon, just to see them.
Yeah.
But so I personally, I really liked how they kind of had this like throwback and this tie-in to like the roots of the game, with this like neon glow on everything in the city, this like Neo Tokyo kind of feeling. It kind of it was like a nod to the origin of the series, and I really liked that. On top of that, it also added to this like film noir feeling, like a detective film kind of, like you mentioned. And to the point where they even had like the news reporter that that was helping the main character, that kind of thing. So it really did feel like a detective movie. Well, it's in the title, so obviously we got that.
Yeah.
But my biggest concern was the talking Pikachu. When going into it, I thought, like how are they gonna sell this? How are they gonna have a Pikachu that talks, that only this guy can understand? How are they going to connect that? And what did you think about that? How do you feel about that? Like, do you think the film would have been better if it wasn't a talking Pikachu? Do you think it enhanced it?
I definitely think it was better because it was a talking Pikachu. If it had just been him, like, Pika-Pee, and like he's like kind of like trying to figure out what he's saying the entire time, I think that would have I think it would have been okay, but I think it would have made it a little bit more childish. I think it would have played to a younger audience. Bringing in the aspect of the Pikachu being able to talk and these two guys being the only ones that can understand each other, I actually liked it. I thought it played into what was actually a really, really surprisingly well done plot, a surprisingly well thought out plot, good twists, good character development, good stories. But I thought casting Ryan Reynolds as the Pikachu was probably single-handedly the decision that made this movie very good. That took this movie from being, it was interesting, okay, to being, okay, wow, that was actually really good, and I actually really liked that.
I agree.
Because he always brings a level of humor that kind of...
So witty. He's just so witty.
Exactly. A level of this witty humor that you just don't really get otherwise. They could have had somebody else do it, but I don't think it would have been as good. I don't think it would have been. It would have felt as natural. I like the plot that they developed. I like that the Pikachu could talk. I liked that they were the only two that could understand each other. I was on board with all of those things. The story itself, again, surprisingly good for a movie that I was expecting to be a kid's movie. I went into this expecting this to be, it's Pokemon, so it's going to be kind of like the animes were, where it's like a little cheesy. Like they're like egging each other on, and you can do it no matter what. Like, you're my best friend, Pikachu, no matter what happens. And I was like, okay, like,
we must defend.
I was like, okay, this could get a little cheesy, but the plot was very good. It was a little bit dark. It was very interesting and pretty compelling. I was on board. What about you? What did you think?
So, I guess my question for you, with that same topic then, is, do you think that a future movie, if they were to make a not necessarily a sequel to this one, but another one, wouldn't be as good if that Pokemon doesn't talk?
I don't know. I mean, so probably not. I'm trying to think of like if they go away from the Detective Pikachu line, if they start to make a different one, are we just going to basically be hearing the Pokemon kind of making noises and then them talking to them sort of, and will that make it less good? I don't know if it'll make it less good. I think it'll bring the target audience down a little bit in age, and so I think that it might seem less good to you and I. I think that was kind of a unique aspect to this movie that really helped it. I think it made it better. What about you? Do you think it's going to make it better or worse in the future if they don't have that aspect?
So to answer the first question, I actually think that Ryan Reynolds did a fantastic job. And I went into it worried that he was going to add too much humor to it. But I time and time again, I forget how good of an actor he is and how he's able to actually pull in some of the emotion and be a human character, because I'm so used to seeing him in things like Deadpool, where the humor is so over the top that he just gets to be himself. And so it's hard for me to remember that he can be a good actor and be a human, a relatable human-to-human character. So I thought that casting him was a risk, and that's honestly one of the reasons that I didn't go see it, because I was like, there's no way that Ryan Reynolds is going to be able to pull this off. I was wrong. And then if they were to make a future movie, the thing is I've thought very, very long and hard about movies that could be made in the Pokemon genre that were live action. My first concern was, how is the CGI going to be good? You can't make a Pokemon movie if the Pokemon look shitty. So they got that part down. The movie is obviously like, a year or two old now?
Yeah, I think it was in 2019.
Yeah. So already some of the CGI is a little dated. You could see it towards the end. I don't know if it was maybe a lack of budget, but towards the end, when all the Pokemon are being transformed into humans and then back, you could tell that they were CGI when there were certain sequences where the Pokemon looked really, really good. Like Pikachu, dude, I feel like I could pet him. Like the fur and everything on him just looked incredible.
He was convincing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm trying to get my train of thought back. There's a fire truck here, and it's kind of weirding me out. But
it's on fire.
Oh god, yeah, this is fine. Insert meme. So
right.
That was my biggest concern was getting the Pokemon to look right, but they did that. And so what I always wanted after that was a Pokemon movie that felt a little grittier and it felt a little more real. And I think this movie did a step forward. Like, how cool would it be to have Pokemon battles that were underground, kind of like how this one did, but like in a darker sense, in that these people were doing it for the money and not the thrills. This like just painting this world to feel a little more realistic and not so campy. Have Team Rocket,
There's
be like more than just these buffoons.
Right, more than a bunch of idiots
Right.
or goofballs. I think you're actually really onto something there. It seems like in every genre, specifically the superhero genre, we're kind of seeing them take off the blinders a little bit and say, okay, we're going to make these a little darker.
Mm-hmm.
It started with Deadpool, then you're seeing it in like The Boys, Umbrella Academy, reviews coming soon. You start to see kind of a darker genre, and it's just more accepted by people because I don't know if it's a case where we're getting a little bit bored of the like happy ending every time, like everything ties up nicely with a little bow at the end. We're kind of, as an audience and an aging audience that's going to a lot of these movies, we're okay with seeing content that's a little more visceral, a little darker, a little more real. That's why movies like Deadpool are so successful, because they don't feel like they have to be so cheesy, and they don't have to be fake.
Yeah.
I would very much enjoy seeing a Pokemon movie in the future where, I don't know if I want to see Pokemon like dying and like blowing up and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
saying
different.
that.
Yeah.
But like you said, like with some real risk and like a little bit darker plot and a little bit more adult themed, where maybe like, could you imagine like a rated R Pokemon movie?
That's
like
what
what
I'm
would that
saying,
even be? And like I think there's actually potential there, like, because this movie, Detective Pikachu, let me see, it was PG.
Okay.
So dude, PG, like, I rarely even like PG movies anymore.
Same.
I don't care what the genre is.
What are you talking
because
about, man?
you generally...
Artemis Fowl was great.
What'd you say?
Artemis Fowl was great.
Oh my god, dude. Don't even bring that up. Don't speak his name again.
You just leave.
Jesus.
Technical error.
Yeah. No, but I think it's been a long time since I've even enjoyed a PG movie, regardless of the genre. And it's just because when you get something like Endgame, Avengers Endgame, where it's so dark, and you're getting all this content now that's so real and good and very dark, that kind of becomes the standard. That kind of becomes the bar. And so the Pokemon movies can make a choice. The Pokemon company can make a choice. If they want to keep making these movies, they can continue to make them in this sort of tone, which is good, and they will continue to probably make good movies. If they wanted to make a movie that I think a lot of people, especially our age, would consider great, they're going to have to get their hands dirty a little bit and make something that feels a little bit more real. I agree with you. Because
even
I think
just PG-13 would be a step.
Yeah, put something in there to attract the older audience, man. Pokemon is a very millennial thing. I understand kids are still playing it. Gen Z kids are still playing it. That's fine. But the audience that's watching Pokemon movies is getting older. I mean, the youngest millennial out there is like 24 years old or something now. Like, if the cutoff's, 96? So you're talking about 24-year-olds and up that are watching these movies. Dude, it's like... You don't have to be scared you're gonna freak us out or insult us. You know what I mean? Make at least a PG-13 rated Pokemon movie, and let's see what people think. I think people will be receptive.
Like seeing a trainer out on his own, isolated, having to survive on foraging and all that, and then coming across a Pokemon that's super dangerous, having him go through the trial of having to capture this thing.
Right.
Get scraped up and bloodied, and then have to battle somebody who comes across him. Maybe they're trying to take his stuff. It would just be interesting to see Pokemon in the sense that, because they made it sound like becoming a trainer was super dangerous in the video games, even because otherwise everyone would do it. And
yeah, I want to see
more
like
of that.
I want Snorlax to fall on hard times. He has to strip.
Yeah,
he loses
exactly.
His house.
You
know what
he
I mean?
loses
He has
his
a problem
job.
with drugs. That's the kind of Pokemon movie that I think the people are asking for. You know what I mean? Stop beating around the bush.
BBP,
we want to see
big beautiful Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
the
a
not
new,
rated, the
new
not rated
category.
yeah. Search for it now. I don't even want to know what that
I
actually
don't either.
means, because if you type that, you're for sure gonna find something you wish.
What I'm worried about is that it's already there, and that I think that I created it, and I didn't.
It's there now, dude. If you let me ask you. So if you could not if you could pick, but if you could see yourself with a Pokemon, like say you're a trainer, what would your first Pokemon be? And I don't mean like what would you pick if you wanted. I mean like what do you think like really reflects you? What would your Pokemon be?
I don't know why I didn't prep this question. That's a really good question. I have always been in love with Vulpix. That is my number one favorite Pokemon. I love Vulpix and not Ninetales. I'm not a fan of Ninetales. I like Vulpix. I like the little.
But do you think that that's like you? Like, do you think if like the Pokemon chose you, is that who you'd be? Like, this is like a Harry Potter wand kind of scenario.
Yeah. I think so, man. I think so. He's not it's not a huge Pokemon. He's tiny. He's quiet and a little standoffish, but you piss him off and he's fiery. But yeah, he's like a tiny little fragile puppy that can go off at any moment. I like that. Yeah, fragile puppy right here.
Fair enough. I think if I was to choose a Pokemon, I don't know, it'd probably be something humble like a sparrow or something like that. But I feel like if it was to choose me, I don't know, nothing crazy. Probably like a Lugia or something like that. You know what I mean? Like just based on like who I am in the Pokemon world. Like, I'm not saying I'm the greatest Pokemon out there or anything like that. Nothing. Again, nothing crazy.
Not Mewtwo.
But like I feel like I'm generally pretty good at looking in the mirror and kind of knowing who I am. I would probably say like a Lugia or like a Moltres or something like that. You know what I mean? Like something fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Something generally pretty badass.
I too am extraordinarily humble.
Alpha male, flying type.
Right.
I can fly. But yeah, I don't know, dude. I have no idea what mine would actually be.
What
It's been a
about
long time.
like if you had to like pick, like I'll say like maybe the first or second generation, but if you had to pick your 6 Pokemon, like you're walking into a gym.
Ooh, dude. Gyarados is pretty badass. I would probably do a Gyarados.
Gyarados is awesome.
If I'm not trying to get too analytical about this because now I'm gonna like, all right, I have a water type. You need a grass type. Gyarados was pretty sick. I think that what was the one? I'm trying to remember. What was the one? The fire type starting Pokemon that was like a little like fire badger. What was that guy?
Cyndaquil.
Cyndaquil, and then what was his like third evolution?
Typhlosion.
Yeah. Probably a Typhlosion. Those were pretty sick too. I don't know, dude. I really like Eevee, and then I'd like have to find a stone and decide like what I would turn him into.
There's so many Eevee evolutions too.
Yeah,
now.
there really
like,
are. There really are. I want a ghost type, so probably a Ghastly. I always thought those were really cool looking.
See, I love Gengar. Gengar would definitely be in my top 6.
Gengar, dude,
and it was actually
cool.
the one Pokemon I didn't like in the movie. I thought his eyes
Really?
looked a little funky to me. Yeah, they were a little too big. But
It's been a long time since I've seen him in the games. I don't know. What about you? What would your starting 6 be?
I definitely would want a Charmeleon, not a Charizard. I feel like that's a little too flashy.
Yeah,
I like something that's around my height. I don't need a giant Pokemon. I probably a Charmeleon. Obviously a Vulpix. I love Fire type.
Yeah,
but I think a Blastoise would be dope.
They are sick. I'd have to play those games again, dude. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and a Gengar.
I mean, obviously, I'd be like, yeah, I'd have like a fucking Rayquaza or something. Like, that'd be cool. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, is that realistic? I don't know. Again, I am a probably pretty badass trainer in the Pokemon world. But, you know.
Is that Lugia?
Yeah. He just flies by my house. All right, man. We got to get back on track here with this movie.
For real.
I was really pleasantly surprised with this movie, dude. I would recommend this to people, and I hope that people enjoyed it too. What do you think could have been done better about this movie? What are some things that you necessarily didn't love?
I'm not a fan of the female lead in the movie. I didn't think she was that great of an actress. There were some moments where she was a decent actress. I've seen her in other stuff. I've seen her in Supernatural. I was never a fan of her acting. She did have her moments, but I think there could have been a little more chemistry, I guess, between the two leads, especially if you're hinting at like a possible romance there. But I like that they didn't go that way.
They pretty much blew the budget on Ryan Reynolds, dude. Like I wasn't exactly expecting to see like Christian Bale come out as like the Mewtwo or something like that. Like I think they were kind of.
I mean, but they did have Bill Nye.
They had Bill Nye in that movie?
Yeah.
Dude, I missed him.
He's, Davy Jones. He's the...
Bill Nye?
Yeah, Bill Nye. He played Davy Jones in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He was the bad guy. The one in the wheelchair.
What?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Oh, dude. Bill Nye. N-I-G-H-Y.
Yeah, not Bill
Nye. I thought you were
Nye,
talking about the
guy.
science guy,
No,
dude.
no.
What the hell? I was like, what? Yeah, I was like, dude, you had me. I was about to be done with this podcast forever. I was like, if you're telling me Davy Jones was Bill Nye the whole time, I was like, what? Am I insane? Like, I have like schizophrenia. I don't even know it. Okay, Okay, Nighy, Bill Nye. Wow. Okay, dude, I thought we were talking about the fucking science guy. I was like, I missed him completely in this movie. And then you were losing me entirely with the Davy Jones thing. I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
You were like,
all right, fair enough. Yeah, he was really good. He was convincing.
But no, I think things that they could have done better. I just wish I wanted more Pokemon battles for sure. I wanted that's what people are going to see, and I feel like there wasn't any battling really, except for the one moment where Pikachu is in the thing. Otherwise, they're running the entire time. And then I guess
there really weren't
battle
any battles.
Yeah,
right. There really weren't any battles that you saw, and even if it was like more like we get to hang out at that underground thing and see other people's Pokemon fight for a little bit, I would have been cool to. It would have been put my feet
awesome
up.
to see some like edgy character, like introduced to them, who is some badass trainer. I don't know. I think the entire movie overall just could have gone a little bit darker because they had the theme and the tone right. They just didn't take that step forward. And I think that if they did, it would have totally sold us on this realistic world and would have probably found an even grander audience in the millennials.
Agreed.
But still a very fun movie. It was very fast paced. It picks up quickly. You're on board with the characters right away. The cinematography is freaking awesome. They did a great job of taking this world and building it up from literally the ground up, because the entire thing had to have been filmed pretty much entirely on a studio set, because none of this existed. And I like that they had like I said, the Tokyo-esque vibe, but then we're also able to transport you to like the trainer side of things, where they take you to the rolling hills and the plains and you see all of the different areas, like the meadows where the Pokemon do live, because that just kind of throws you back to the video games. And overall, I think they did a great job of painting out the beginnings of what could be a very good franchise for us nerds.
Yeah, well said. That's basically what I would say too. The plot was very good for a detective movie. I thought it left a little bit to be desired for it being a Pokemon movie.
Yeah.
I was okay with the plot, and I was okay with the story. And this is kind of like them testing the waters a little bit for a little bit darker Pokemon movie. Great.
Jump in.
Again.
Yeah, jump in then.
Yeah, I say give us more. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't even know what an R-rated Pokemon movie would look like, but I'm game. If they're willing to make it, I'm gonna watch it. If
it
they're willing to make
with a man stepping into a strip club, and he hands the person like a big wad of cash, and then a Jinx walks out.
Snorlax is asleep, blocking the path. You have to do a lot more than play a flute to wake him up, buddy. Yeah, I don't know. I thought as for a Pokemon movie, it left a little bit to be desired. Even the animes, there's always battles and there's always fighting, and it's just it's what it is. It's the main fundamental.
You saw one Pokeball in the entire movie.
Yeah, you're right. When he throws it at the Cubone. So okay, I'm okay with this movie being what it was, but for the next Pokemon movie, I think for them to take what was a good movie and turn it into what really I think could be a great movie, and I think they proved this has potential to be that. Make it a little darker, and let's up the ante with the action a little bit. Get us feeling like we're kind of in a Pokemon battle a little more. I always like the tournament ideas in a Pokemon battle.
Yes.
Like, those were always really cool. Seeing, like, the really grand, like, impressive Pokemon, I'm always on board for that.
Like, whenever they had trailers to the video games, and you would always see trainers in this big stadium, and they would get their Pokeballs out, and the Pokemon
dude, Super
would be
Smash
like,
Bros. Like, you're playing in the arena. Yeah, that's what we want, man. That's what we're looking for. But
where's Kirby, man?
To me, actually, to be honest, that really was the only negative I had for this, which was surprising.
We want more. If that's the negative, then they did a great job. We want more.
Agreed. And it's surprising because I'm usually pretty good at being kind of an asshole with these movies. Like, normally I find myself finding a lot more negative things to say about a movie than positive. But actually, really the only negative I had for this was I kind of just wanted more Pokemon in this thing. The detective aspect of it was fine. It was a good detective movie, but I would have liked to see this be a little more Pokemon movie in the training and the battles.
Yeah, I agree.
So just to throw this out there, and we don't have to wrap it up right now, but I think just to drive the discussion forward a little bit, let's talk about how this movie did in the box office and kind of how people received it and how well it did. So Detective Pikachu got a 68% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. It got a 79% audience score, and I think there's something in that, kind of with what we're saying, where I really
it's a divide. It's the millennials versus the
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think about those ratings? And you can give us your score too. How does that kind of crack up to what you would say this movie did?
So I think that this is the first time where it shows the reason that we started this podcast, because you have the critics, which, not to say that all of the critics that are writing reviews and stuff on Rotten Tomatoes or everywhere are older, but chances are, as a critic, you have to establish yourself. So there's probably years of work that have gone into establishing yourself as a critic and then finding a position in a place like Rotten Tomatoes. So there's already a divide there, because most of the critics are not from the generation that grew up with Pokemon. And so they're seeing this from a filmmaking standpoint, and they don't know what the hell to think. They think it's it's probably trash. It's just CGI overload to them. But they don't see the nostalgia factor and the pop culture phenomenon that is Pokemon that made it what it is for us. And so I think that where you have the audience score is you have people like you and me who wanted to go see this because they wanted to see the Pokemon battles. They wanted to see that. And I think it shows that they just missed a little bit in that the audience gave it a 79.
A 79% audience score, let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just say 80%, because that's just basically what it was. That's pretty good, especially by Rotten Tomatoes standards. Like, dude, I've seen some movies that I thought were pretty decent, and they tanked worse than that. Yeah. So 79, 80%, that is not bad.
No. And it just shows you that there was a little room for growth.
Definitely.
Because there's no way that a Pikachu movie is ever going to be a 10 out of 10. But maybe an 85, maybe a 90% if people really, really received it well. And it just shows you what... And I guarantee you, if you go through the reviews and read, it's going to say, we wanted more Pokemon battles. We wanted, where's the Pokemon arena? They're going to say that they wanted more of that. Hands down.
Yeah, I could see critics being like, in a Pokemon movie, it lacked Pokemon. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I could see that being kind of the gripe.
Yeah. So I think that that's a pretty solid idea of where the movie stands. If you grew up with Pokemon, you're probably going to like it. If you didn't grow up with Pokemon and you're taking your kids or something, it's probably going to be a boring movie to you, unless you're able to turn your brain off and just accept that this is the world that they live in. So I think it's pretty solid, and I think that the movie overall is a good time. It's funny, it's fast paced, it's got everything that you would want from Pokemon, and leaves you wanting more as opposed to wishing that you hadn't watched it. And I think that's pretty good. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in line with the audience score on this one. I'm bouncing between like a 7.5 and an 8 on this one.
And that's what I was going to give it, a 7.5.
Yeah, just because it was actually very good, and I think sorry to just keep saying that word good. That's just the G word. I'm just throwing it out there. But I thought it,
good.
If nothing else, good. I thought it definitely showed the potential that the Pokemon franchise has in theaters. Like, this has got to be one of the most underutilized franchises in cinema ever. Like, dude, I just feel like if they were to make something a little darker, I don't know if the Pokemon company ever would do that. It'd almost be like asking Pixar to make like an R-rated Pixar movie.
Yeah. This is very much a family-oriented.
Right. It kind of just goes away from their foundation. But man, I think if they were willing to do it, I seriously think there'd be a good reception for it, and I think they could create a franchise that a lot of people would end up watching.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd start seeing a lot higher reviews. I think it has a lot of potential. So I'll go ahead and score this one. To me, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 7.5. And I think, I'm actually pretty happy about that score, because I think the Pokemon franchise now really has a lot of room to grow in the future. And I hope that they'll take these kind of scores and this reception in the box office and say, hey, there's a market for this. Let's look into this. Let's maybe look into people. Hopefully we're not the only ones saying that. People want something a little bit darker, a little more real. The audience for Pokemon is there, and they didn't make a kids movie, which I appreciated. But in a movie that's supposed to be about Pokemon, I would have liked to see a little bit more Pokemon in the sense that we knew them, which would be battling.
Right.
In kind of the training sense. So yeah, it gets a 7.5 from me.
I guess, yeah, ultimately, and I agree, a 7.5. I think, just as you said that, it clicked. The reason that I think there's one thing that it was missing, and I think it was missing a climax. It didn't have this climactic moment other than Pikachu finally using an attack. That was it. There wasn't this huge Pokemon battle that saved the day. It was more of running around and distracting Mewtwo, and then they were able to take this thing off. Like, that's what it came down to. It wasn't there was no battle or anything. And that's it would have been really cool to see that. Like, it would have been really cool to see like police show up after everybody got turned and then use their Pokemon to battle the Pokemon that were going crazy. Like, that would have been awesome. Like, just Pokemon battling across the street. Nintendo, man. I'm just saying, I have a film background. I've clearly invested. So, hire me? Anyways.
Find us at criticinthecommonman.com.
Yep, contact me.
Find our contact information there. Yep. Dude, you know what? You're right, though. Because in all the Pokemon content prior to this, you would have seen, like, Pikachu's up against all odds. He's fighting a Charizard, or he's fighting a Zapdos, and he's beaten up, and he's got no energy left, and Ash is crying in the back, and then all of a sudden he summons some, like, crazy thunderbolt that just comes out of nowhere, and you know, it blasts everybody. Like straight up Palpatine, Rise of Skywalker kind of lightning. But, dude, like, imagine that kind of CGI, that kind of darkness and depth in a Pokemon movie. Where they're fighting, and dude, you're seeing there's real danger and there's real substance. They got a lot of potential, man. They got a lot of potential.
You kind of hit it on the nail with that, though. Like, you absolutely could take that dark vibe and that feeling. Like, dude, if you combined the Star Wars vibe with a Pokemon movie,
oh man,
like if you took that level of like, you know, like, because Star Wars is still family friendly.
It is,
but it touches on topics of death and darkness, and you know, like,
well, Disney and Marvel, you know, obviously Disney owns Marvel now, but Disney and Marvel are doing a really good job lately of kind of creating the content that's it's getting a little darker. They're kind of stepping into that a little better, and their content has been really good for the most part since that transition. I mean, dude, you can't tell me these Deadpool movies aren't good. They're funny, and you remember there was when Fox was being acquired, there was this whole thing where they were scared they wouldn't even make Deadpool anymore because it was too dark for Disney. And then Disney's like, no, we're going to keep doing it. And dude, that thing kills in the box office.
Yeah.
So I'd be okay. Let's see some of that, I think, with the future Pokemon movies. Again, it's kind of like asking Pixar to make an R-rated movie. Is it going to happen?
Probably
Maybe not. Probably not. But I would go see it. I think a lot of people would too. And I think it'd be one of those leave the kids at home kind of thing because Pokemon are going to die. Yeah. And it's going to be intense. But, dude, I'd be in. I would watch it.
Charmander almost died in the series. It's, you know.
Yeah, his like little tail flame almost goes out.
Really sad scene. But, overall, I agree with you. 7.5 on my end, 7.5 from you.
Yeah.
Good movie. Too. It's funny. It's worth a shot, especially if you're a Pokemon fan. You're going to want more. The
word of the day for this one is potential, for sure. This thing showed the potential that the Pokemon franchise has. Potential. You got anything else for Detective Pikachu?
I don't think so, yeah.
Cool.
I think we should just head out of here. I will meet you down the street. I'll grab my Pokemon, you grab yours, and battle to the death.
Cool, man. Yeah, I got to go see my dealer. He's a Pikachu. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Part of the plot for the new movie. Jesus. All right, man. That's it. So that's the Critic and the Common Man review of Detective Pikachu. 7.5 all around. Very good movie. I hope you guys liked it too. Not the best movie. Showed a lot of potential. I really hope that they kind of keep this going, make something else. And that's it. If you disagreed or agreed or just have something to say, drop them in the comments down below. If you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, head on over to our YouTube, get engaged a little bit. You guys can check us out, criticinthecommonman.com. You can find Chris's blog post up there too. Really, really fun stuff that we've been going with. We really appreciate all the love on the social media. Critic and the Common Man on Instagram also. So that's it. That is the Critic and the Common Man review of Detective Pikachu. Really glad we watched this one, Chris. Let's get out of here.